Well, hello, and welcome back to another podcast episode with Brittany Bundles. You are listening to the Brittany Bundles podcast, and this is the credit repair portion, or this is the credit portion. We talk everything credit. We talk about different tips on how to become financially stable. We talk about tips on how to get out of debt. We go over different mortgage information, go over different information pertaining to how to repair your credit. And today what I want to talk about is I want to talk about some myths. So I am on the Equifax website, and I thought it would be really cool to go over some credit myths, just to shed light on some things that may have been presented as true information and really is not. On the last podcast episode, I went over different sections of the FICRA, and there was a misconception that I went over in the last episode as well, going over section 609 versus section 611, So that is a really good podcast to tune into as well once you finish this. Just going over different information pertaining to disputing items from your credit report, and how there is a misconception that there's a certain dispute letter that is required in order to remove all inaccuracies off of your credit report. And we dove into that a little bit deeper in the last podcast episode. So if you are considering repairing your credit, if you're interested in removing inquiries or just information that is inaccurate from your credit report, or information that's unverifiable, then that would be a good episode for you to tune into. So be sure to do that. But I'm going to go ahead and go over some other misconceptions. Before I do, I'm going to ask that you all share the podcast. Sharing the podcast helps to promote it. It helps to get the word out to other people that are interested in repairing their credit. And not just that, but I do have an entrepreneurial podcast. Entrepreneurial empowerment podcast, I should say, on this platform as well, where I have different interviews with other entrepreneurs that have shared their journey through entrepreneurship. They've shared some of their obstacles, some ways that they have overcome those obstacles, their goals. I share my insight and experiences as well. So it's just not only sharing the podcast helps to promote the podcast, like I mentioned, but it does help to shed light on the businesses that have been featured and that have sponsored different podcast episodes. And it also helps to shed light on entrepreneurs, their journey. So be sure to go ahead and share it. I'll give you a moment to share the podcast. You can share the podcast really simply. You can share it via text. You can share it via social media by sharing that link. You can share it by turning on the podcast when you're in the car with a family member or friend. Go ahead, get creative, and share the podcast. I'll give you a few moments to do that, and I'll be right back in just a moment. All right, so I am back. And again, we're going over some myths. I am on the Equifax website. I do want to say this: when you are looking at information pertaining to credit in total, you want to make sure that you're getting the information from reputable sources. There's so much information out there today, and not all of the information that you get is going to be accurate nor correct. And so just to save time and to be more efficient, I like to make sure that whoever I'm listening to, or whatever information or article I'm reading from, I want to make sure that it's accurate. So I recommend going to the credit bureaus directly for a lot of your information, because a lot of the information that you're going to need is found there, and it's accurate information. So the first misconception that I want to go over is checking your credit report or credit scores will hurt your credit scores. This is something that I would hear so often working at the credit union that I used to work for. And the reason I would hear this a lot is because when members would call in inquiring about different loans or inquiring about refinancing, a lot of times they would say, I really want to do this, but I don't want to do it because I don't want to hurt my credit score. And so I had to learn that there was a difference between soft and hard pulls. And meaning, that if there's a soft pull, it gives the creditors information as to a general idea of what your credit stance is. But it doesn't put an inquiry on your credit report, causing your score to be lowered. If you do have a hard inquiry, then that can alter your credit score. I remember when I was about to close on my first home, and the lender advised me not to have any hard pulls on my credit report because that could alter my credit score. And if my credit score was altered, then that could change my pre-approval amount, that could change my pre-approval interest rate, it could change my pre-approval decision depending on how far my credit score changed. It could change a lot of different factors. So I want to go ahead and read what the website is saying. So the website says that this is in fact a myth. It's false. Checking your credit reports or credit scores does not impact your credit scores. In fact, it may actually be a good idea to check them regularly. Checking your credit reports can help give you a view into what potential lenders and creditors may see if you apply for credit. And regularly tracking credit scores can help you understand your overall credit situation, especially if you're planning to make a large purchase such as a car or a home. So checking your credit reports alone, just by getting your credit score, doesn't hurt your credit at all, but it is if you are looking to refinance, like I mentioned before, or if you're looking for different loan options. If anyone pulls your credit, they do a hard pull, that definitely can impact your credit score. So the next highlight that they have is having a credit card but not using it can positively impact credit scores. So they write, that depends on multiple factors, including whether you are carrying a balance on the credit card. If it's paid off, it may help lower your debt to income ratio, the amount of credit you're using compared to the total amount available to you. In addition, if the credit card is one of your oldest credit accounts, it can help show a larger credit history. Both your debt to credit ratio and the length of your credit history are generally used in calculating credit scores. So we've used that scenario before in some other podcast episodes where I've gone over ways to build credit. Now, if you do have a credit card, before you close the credit card, I would recommend not doing it, not closing the credit card, because it can have a negative impact on your credit score, especially if the credit card that you're closing has been one of your longest trades, meaning if that credit card has been open for some time, because part of your credit score makeup is also the time that you've had certain accounts open, and also your debt to income ratio. So you want to make sure that you are considering that when you are looking at closing a credit card, even though I wouldn't recommend closing one. If you're not using a card anymore, I would recommend just not using it, allowing the card issuing company to close it on your behalf, and leaving it like that, because that's going to have the least negative impact on your credit score. If you're no longer using that card, just don't use it. The next highlight is applying for a credit card will not impact your credit scores. So usually this is true. Okay, applying for a credit card generally results in a hard inquiry on your credit reports, which can impact credit scores. It's best to only apply for the credit you need. Okay, so this usually is true. But then it says applying for a credit card generally results in hard inquiry on credit reports, which can impact credit scores. So, hey, they threw the usually in there. So there are times, I'm assuming, that it won't hurt your credit scores, and there are times that they can. But like it did mention, a hard inquiry on your credit report can impact your credit score. So you just want to be careful that you're actually applying for the credit that you need, and not just applying for whatever. Whenever you're asked at a store if you want to open a credit card, you're not just saying, yeah, I'll take that offer, because it can negatively impact your credit score. Okay, so the next highlight they have is carrying a small balance on your credit cards is a good idea when it comes to your credit scores. It says, true, carrying a small balance on your credit cards can affect you in a couple of ways. One, you will likely pay interest on the cards, the price you pay to borrow the money, if you don't pay them off each month. Also remember your debt to income ratio. Lenders and creditors generally like to see a low debt to income ratio below 30%. If your credit card balances are creeping up, your debt to income ratio may be as well. I wanted to point this out too. So many people were curious about interest and how interest works when I used to work at the credit union. And I think that the way that Experian just simplified it is so useful by saying interest is the price you pay to borrow the money, because there is a price that's associated with borrowing a lot of times, unless you're doing some type of deal where you have same as cash offer. If you pay off your debt in a certain amount of time, then you don't pay any interest. But typically, like auto loans, I know a lot of auto loans are simple interest daily auto loans, meaning that the interest accrues each day. So the longer you have the loan, the more you're going to pay in interest. So it's just really important to keep all of that in mind as well, that when you are looking at taking out debt, the interest is the amount, or that's the amount that you're going to pay for being able to borrow that debt. So just making sure that it makes sense. There are some people that are like, I really didn't need this, but I got it because I can get it on credit. Well, just be aware that you're going to pay more than the item is typically priced at and worth if you are planning on charging it and then paying the minimum balance each month. And then it also can have a negative impact on your debt to income ratio if the balances on your credit cards are above the 30%. The last highlight that they have here is there is nothing you can do about inaccurate or incomplete information on your credit reports. They have that listed as false. If you see account related information on your credit reports that's inaccurate or incomplete, consider contacting the lender. You may be able to straighten out the matter with the company itself, and the company will report the updated information to the credit bureaus. Lenders and creditors reporting inaccurate or incomplete information are responsible for updating it with each bureau they report to. You can also file a dispute for free with the credit bureau or bureaus reporting the information on credit reports. By law, the nationwide credit bureaus have 30 days to investigate your dispute and respond. Visit our dispute page to learn how to file a dispute with Equifax. And I just noticed, I think I said Experian a moment ago. This is Equifax, so I am so sorry if I misspoke. Just wanted to clear that up. It also says higher credit scores generally result in more favorable loan terms and lower interest rates. Understanding the facts about what will and won't help credit scores is a good first step. So that's another great point. The better credit score you have, the lower you end up paying a lot of times in interest. For example, again, when I worked at the credit union, when I would approve different auto loans, there would be some people that would get approved for an auto loan with an interest rate of up to like 2.34%. And there would be others that would be approved for an auto loan of up to like 5.34%. And so people would ask a lot of times, hey, why am I not getting this interest rate that you all advertised on the flyer? And the interest rate was based on a certain credit score. So it is really important, even if you're approved for a loan, you want to make sure that you're being approved for the best, most favorable terms that you possibly can get in your current financial state. So it is important to work toward a higher score. I know sometimes in different episodes on this podcast and also on my YouTube channel at Brittany Bundles, I have an entire credit playlist. I talk about how the credit score is not the only thing that you should be worried about, because you can have a high credit score, but not so much of a strong credit profile. And the way that I like to phrase that is there have been people that I've done credit reports on that have had like 700 credit scores. And they had that by doing a really good job utilizing their credit card that they had, but they didn't have any secured loans. They didn't have any unsecured loans. They just had that unsecured trade of a credit card. So their credit score is pretty high. It was good. But when they went to apply for a mortgage, because they didn't have any other credit history and their credit profile wasn't that strong, sometimes they would need a co-signer, or they would need a credit builder loan. So it's important to have a mix of different trades, open and secured and unsecured, and it's also important to build your credit profile. So I recommend utilizing your car loans the right way. I talk a lot of times about how when I got my first car loan, I didn't really understand credit or what I should be doing, and I thought it would be a great idea for me to just pay off my credit loan. Although that helped my debt to income, it did not help my overall credit score. If I would have kept the loan and paid on it for some time, that would have actually helped my score more than me paying it off helped. But I didn't think like that. I didn't understand that, and I just was thinking that, hey, if I pay it off immediately, this shows that I'm financially stable, this shows that I'm responsible, and so my credit score will soar. Well, I was wrong about that. So just make sure that you're aware as much as you possibly can be when you're looking at building your credit or repairing your credit. There's just some information that you may think is accurate and really it's not. So I like to fact check with the credit bureaus, directly, and make sure that I'm getting all of my information from the correct source, and then align it to what I need to align it to make sure that I have the most positive impact in my credit profile as I possibly can. So I really hope that this episode helped. Again, I'm going to try to go to the top of the page to get the website again. I am trying to scroll on my laptop. Okay. Slowly but surely it is scrolling up. I'm just trying to get I forgot what website. Okay, I was saying Experian, but it is I'm on the Equifax website. So if you do want to go to that website and reread or go over any of the information that I talked about, you can definitely do that by going over misconceptions about credit scores. That is all there. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to follow me on social media. I do have a credit repair business as well. So if you're in need of repairing your credit, be sure to visit me at BCH, B as in boy, C as in Charlie, H as in Henry, creditrepairsplural.com. Also, please follow my credit repair Instagram at BCH_credit repairs. Again, that's plural. Also, please follow me on YouTube at Brittany Bundles. I do want to thank you all for tuning in again, and I'll talk to you all in the next podcast episode. Bye.